What's up, banana bunch? Bunch? Bunch?
Welcome to the Jungle Gyms podcast.
What's up, Banana Bunch? Look, I'm strolling through the store right now because I got a lot going on, but I'm excited about this episode this week. Couple things. Download the Jungle Gyms app so you can get app-exclusive deals. Come on out on Thursday nights to the Oscar station so we can do cigar and bourbon nights. I'd love to have you out here. Look at the toy department. Look how great it looks. There's all kinds of cool stuff coming up. There's my studio from the outside. New Pokemon cards. I heard we got a great deal on that. All kinds of things. So this week, this man probably needs no introduction. He was just here doing a really fun culinary event, but you probably know him for his work in the industry. I mean, he was former showrunner for The Simpsons and head writer. He wrote the very famous steamed hams scene that I know you all loved because it was all over social media for a few years. He's worked on Futurama, Mission Hill, so many great things. We got to bond over a lot. I am so excited to have him on the show. We talked about a lot of things. We dove into all kinds of ends of food and his career, and you're going to learn a lot today. So anyway, with no further introduction that I said weird the first time, here is the man, the legend himself, Bill Oakley.
Hi, Bill. Welcome to the show.
It is exciting to be here.
You know what? I normally am the only one to say that in this room. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. Let's just do this easily this way. Tell the audience who you are and why are you in my office today, Bill?
My name is Bill Oakley. I'm a comedy writer, best known for my work on The Simpsons, where I was the head writer with my partner Josh Weinstein. I also wrote the famous steamed hams segment. I've also worked on many other TV shows and comedy projects, but my hobby is generating food content. I don't like the word content, but I do all sorts of food-related things, including my Instagram, my newsletter, and my Ticketed Dinner series,
which we just got to experience last night. I'm probably right now putting clips of it from on this episode right now as you're all watching along with us. What a great time, by the way. Thank you for coming to do that here.
Oh, totally. And thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Now, I know you're obviously still touring. Where can people get some information on that? We'll do that at the top of the show so I don't forget.
Okay. BillOakley.com is I've created this website, or rather I've paid someone to create the website for me, that sort of like has all my stuff on it, including tickets to all the events, listings for all the events, subscription to my newsletter, and links to all that other stuff too.
That's so cool. What a storied career. I mean, look, I sat here agonizing. I was like, do I do a lot of Simpsons questions? I feel like I should lean more on the food side, but like, just as in our little like moments back and back, it's been really fun to hear these little anecdotes. And I guess I shouldn't spoil too many of them since you have a lot in the tour itself. And you all should go to the tour because it was a lot of fun and the food was great. One of the questions I've had from the moment I first discovered you online was, when did the food thing start happening for you? Like, you know, because obviously you're still writing and working on comedy projects
Yes.
and things like that. Like, was there some sort of moment or, you know, pivotal thing that made you want to lean into doing this? I also hate the word content, but content.
Yes, it was I've always been very interested in the topic of food, American food, unusual regional foods, and fast food, things like that. So, I've always been like, I was one of the first people to want to go try the Arch Deluxe when it came out in 1997 or whenever it was, and then it happened, and I would opine about it to people, friends, and then I started posting about stuff on Twitter.
Sure.
And what happened was, it was in 2018. I think it was in May when McDonald's finally decided they were going to stop having frozen quarter pounders and have fresh beef, and I wanted to be the first one through the door that day to try them. And then I was like, maybe rather than posting a text review, I should do a video. And I didn't even know how to do a video. I wasn't even sure my phone could do a video, and it took me all day to string 3 shots together. And it was a very lo-fi video. It's still up there on my Instagram. And I posted it and I reposted it. And McDonald's responded and said, "Hey, congratulations on your new career as a food blogger." And I was like, wow. And so did the head chef of McDonald's. And I was like, well, hey, that's a good idea. So basically what happened is I started doing videos. I started out with just fast food, maybe like 2 times a week on my Instagram. And then over the past 7 years, it has grown into this other thing that's not only a career. It's not so much. It's more of a hobby. But I appear on TV shows such as The Food That Built America on
Yeah.
History Channel as a food expert, and I do a lot of other things now, and I've had my own beer. I'm going to have my own hot dogs. I do a lot of unusual things in the food space.
Honestly, I'm hyped on the hot dogs. Can you say anything more about that yet, or is it too early in the process?
Yeah, I don't think it's too early. These are only going to be available in the Pacific Northwest, where I live.
Oh, cool.
That's a collaboration with Zenner's, which is one of Portland, Oregon's best, most beloved storied sausage and hot dog makers. And we're making
Interesting.
kind of a summer grilling dog that is going to be with my branding on it.
That sounds awesome. I've also always been a fan of the regional food thing. I like to travel around a lot and find all these unique things. So that sounds like something. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to have to work hard with our buyers. Maybe we will carry a little bit here.
That would be amazing. Wow.
How cool would that be, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the other day when I was prepping for this, I was looking for the store. I was like, okay, is there anything like Futurama themed? Or I didn't think I'd find too much Mission Hill, but I was like, definitely
That's for
Simpsons.
sure.
Which is a bummer because it's a great show. And we'll come around to that because I do have some thoughts about that. But I was thinking, I saw we have a play on Duff beer, but it's like a Duff soda.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've just been thrusting in the direction of the problem all week, which is conveniently in our soda aisle. But it cracked me up. No, I love, my original question for you was going to be like, was there a review that actually was like, oh, this is real now? But it's funny that it was like your first video was the one that was like, all right, we're going to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I only had like 85 followers at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't widely seen, but it was seen by those sources. And so I just started doing them, and then the whole thing has grown into kind of a second career.
I love that though. And you seem like you're having a lot of fun doing it.
Oh yeah, I only do. That's the good thing about an unpaying career is you can do whatever you want.
The audience is your boss technically, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And boy, I have to say, after working in TV for 30 years and being so frustrated by the process and the executives and the companies, it is absolute pleasure to be able to say, I'm going to make a video about blank, and then 2 hours later it's on. It's more people are watching it than most of the stupid shows on Hulu, you know.
It's crazy to think about too. I
Yeah.
mean, well, we're all buried in the phones all day long, right? And I mean, even now, it's like I used to be a paper notes guy, but now I'm still like, all right, how do I scroll through my Google Drive document here and not look like I'm being rude? The real truth, Bill, is I'm just texting people while we're sitting here. I love it. I think somebody called you the Anthony Bourdain of drive-throughs, and I thought that was a very funny take on that.
I never heard anybody call me
I'll
that.
have to find. I'll have to find it.
Good.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was like, that's like such a cute little thing. It may have just been a random comment I saw somewhere.
Wow.
But I was
Okay,
just
I
like,
like it.
anytime I saw anything, I was like, all right, put this in the notes in case we actually get to do this. Do you find fast food, because there's obviously like an attachment there, and go with me on this because obviously you're a fan of art in general, being a writer and a creator. Do you find fast food to be kind of an American art form in an interesting way? Is that a weird question?
I guess I'd say that. I mean, if you have an extremely loose definition of the term art, why not? I would
It's like
say
a
that's
cultural stop.
Yes, for sure. It's a distinctly American. I mean, for better or for worse, it is sort of a distinctly American sort of thing. From White Castle to the McDonald's to the whole, certainly the hamburger.
Yeah.
Even though it is named after a city in Germany, is a distinctly American thing. Especially the cheeseburger, and I mean, yes, it is. It comes with all the pluses and minuses of being a distinctly American thing. The minuses obviously being the poor nutritional value of the things, the labor, the issues that come with it, and so forth and so on. But the pluses being the fact that it often tastes really good and is really fast and it's fun.
Right. And reliable, I think, is probably a big thing that,
absolutely.
We love that consistency, it seems like. Okay, so obviously, I mean, we'll get back into food, I'm sure. I've got some snacks off the table I want to go to. But I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask any questions about the writing career. Because obviously, this is something, well, we kind of had a quick moment last night where I was talking about a show that you had worked on as well, that I got kind of close on at one point years and years ago before I think it got retooled.
Yes.
So I'm excited. But
We should also, by the way, not forget to talk about my current writing projects, which will be coming out in a few months. Maybe.
Oh my gosh! Well, hey, you want to just lean right into that right now? Is there something? Is this my Jungle Gyms exclusive?
No, I've talked about it elsewhere, but this will be certainly. I'll talk about it more here. So I've been blessed. My writing career, as many people know, the television industry is basically collapsed. It's where. It's working in newspapers in 2005 was. That's exactly what it's like right now. And I have been blessed by this to have this fantastic escape valve of working for Audible. Now, most people know Audible as a place where you get audiobooks. So it's like you want to hear Harry Potter while you're driving your car, right?
Right.
But Audible also does things called Audible Originals that are things that you can only get on Audible that they produce and make. So about 4 years ago, I sold them this project that I'd always wanted to do that just was too crazy and expensive for TV and for any other medium, called Space 1969.
Okay.
And it's the story, it takes place in an alternate history where Kennedy did not die from his wounds, but instead just went into a coma and awoke with the mission to let's get out of Vietnam and colonize space as quickly as possible. And so we begin on the day of his third inauguration in 1969, and America has a space station and is going to open a moon colony. And it's all very realistic. It takes place in the realistic world of 1969, but it's funny. And because of the alternate history, it involves Kennedy, it involves Nixon, and the star of the show is a nurse who works on the space station who is played by Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, cool.
And Natasha Lyonne she's drawn into a conspiracy, and it's my favorite thing I've ever written. And God bless them at Audible for letting me do whatever I wanted. And we produced it, and it became a surprise bestseller. And you can still get it on Audible.
Okay.
And it was so successful that they ordered a sequel. And so for the past 3 years, I've been writing the sequel. It's 668 pages, I believe, of the script. 10 episodes. I wrote every bit of it myself, and we're now producing it. Natasha's back. All of our original cast is back with obviously new and interesting things, and it's called Space 1972. And we're now recording it, and I'm directing the actors, and it should be out probably this winter or next spring.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait for that. That sounds great. I'm going to have to check out the first one, too, because that sounds right up my alley.
I think you'd love it.
I think I will, too. I have a feeling I'm signing up for Audible today.
And if you have Audible, you get it for free. If you don't, you can also buy it as a download.
Oh, that's cool. I always love the service, too. It's one of those things. I feel like I get caught up in a lot. I was always an avid reader, and then as things just got busier and busier in my life, I'm way more of an audiobook guy.
Yeah.
And I love getting caught up in the conversation of do audiobooks count in that same regard? And I feel absolutely,
they actually, up till the night before we released it, they were debating whether to call it an audiobook or a podcast. And it's not really either of those things.
Right.
It's a radio show.
It's like a radio drama. That's at least how I'm seeing it. A little movie in your mind, as it were.
That's basically, it's exactly like a radio show, with the old time radio show with sound effects and stuff.
That's so cool.
And it's really fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. You have no idea how I'm trying to hold my excitement in visually right now.
Okay, good. I can tell.
There was this company I found years ago called Graphic Audio that used to do a similar thing, and I'd found them at a random truck stop one day years and years ago, and their whole pitch was like, we have 50 actors in this, we have sound effects and all this stuff. I was like, this is a great idea. I hope this takes off. And then it sounds like now they figured out, like Audible in this case, has figured out how to actually make that like a big. Now I don't only have to get it at the Flying J truck stop.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But even if you don't have a phone,
Yeah.
you can buy it on a CD now too.
Can you
They have
really?
it- yes, they have it on CDs or audio DVDs or something like that.
That's
as well.
crazy.
So it's anyway, check it out. It's very funny. People have compared it to Futurama, but in the past.
Oh, I love that so much. And I get excited about anything kind of Kennedy related, especially for alternate history. I was like, this is going to be a really excellent.
you're gonna love
yeah,
this.
I really am going to love this. I can't wait. In the creative space, obviously, you've mentioned this a few times too, that like having the creative freedom to do the right thing in this regard has obviously been huge, right?
Yes.
I mean, I not at anywhere the same scale, but like that's kind of the gig here at Jungle, right? They're very much an anything goes. They're like, let's test it and see what happens. And I think it's made like me better for sure. So, in thinking about that, especially in the times of some of these big shows like The Simpsons and stuff like that, has there ever been a joke that you fought really hard for that didn't make the cut, that you've kind of just been, maybe not festering, but it's been sitting back there for a long time?
Well, at The Simpsons, we had the practically unique situation of not ever getting any network notes.
Interesting.
Because when The Simpsons was invented, the Fox network was brand new.
Right.
And they wanted James L. Brooks to do this show for them. And he just said, well, we'll do the show, but you can never have any notes. We'll give you the tape and you have to broadcast it. And now that did not include censor notes. We still had to have censor notes.
Of course.
But we didn't get any creative notes at all. And it was a unique situation. That's what allowed the show to be so great.
Right.
And it continues to be great to this day for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, if people weren't given notes, they'd go run off the rails, but that's not the case with the people at The Simpsons. So anyway, we did get censor notes, and usually they were perfectly fine. The Simpsons is not supposed to be a dirty show. Right. It's supposed to be, so it was like, please use discretion when showing Homer's naked butt. Right. Things like of that nature, or you don't say the word scumbag, for instance, things like that. There were a couple times when we pushed it over the line because basically, sometimes if we didn't agree with them, we would just ignore the note. And one of them was One of them was, if you remember in the episode with Lawrence Tierney where Bart shoplifts, the guy says, if I wanted smoke blown up my ass, I'd be at home with a pack of cigarettes and a short length of hose. They cut that out. We said, we're not cutting it out. And then we gave them the tape. And then they edited it out of the broadcast.
Wow.
Brooks called them up and read them the riot act, and they never did that again.
That's
one time. And then also the episode, the John Waters episode, which was the episode of Homer's Phobia, the censor gave us, normally the notes would be like, they come in by fax, and they'd be like a couple sentences on a piece of paper.
Sure.
And it's like, please use discretion, blah, blah, right? So when we sent the script over for the gay episode, it came back and it was 3 solid pages of notes.
Oh, wow.
About every single thing having to do with being gay or with homosexuality or whatever. And then at the end it said like, basically like the entire substance and content of this episode is unacceptable for broadcast. Wow. And we were like, what are we going to do? Let's just ignore it. And it's, like we ignored it again because it takes 8 months to make the episodes, right? And so we're going to ignore every note. And we finally did. Finally, the episode came back from Korea fully animated after 8 months. And fortunately, during that time, the president of Fox had been fired, and there was a new censor, and it came back on the fax machine, and it just said acceptable for broadcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
That's such a great story too, because I feel like the story of the tons of notes, that's always what you hear, right? It's like, from our side, it's just like, oh, wow, you guys are constantly getting bombarded by like, cut this out. Here's what S&P wants you to remove, that kind of stuff.
Right.
What a unique and cool situation. And that, honestly, that just makes so much sense that they gave you that kind of freedom ultimately, or rather, it sounds like James L. Brooks was out there fighting for you all in that regard in a really cool way.
Absolutely. And he had a huge, and he still has a huge amount of power, but back then he was winning Oscars every year and stuff, so he could tell them what to do.
Right. And they were going to listen. They're like, yeah, we're a new network. I'm trying to think, what was the cop musical show that was airing at the beginning of the shows of Fox's tenure? Oh my gosh. Cop Rock, maybe?
That was on ABC.
Oh, was that
was
NBC?
A Stephen Bochco. That was a Stephen Bochco production.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, unfortunately, I was like, my childhood memory has failed me once again. I was trying to think. I was like, because what were the other ones? So Simpsons was Married with Children was on Fox
Married
at that
with Children was
time.
before The Simpsons.
Before The Simpsons? Okay.
They had, but that was the only show from their early lineup that stayed on. And then they had Tracy Ullman, and The Simpsons was a spinoff of Tracy Ullman.
Right. It was crazy to watch because I remember it on Tracy Ullman, and it was crazy just to watch the animation even develop over time.
Yeah.
So now it's like not so different, but obviously different enough. When you go back to those early episodes, it's like, oh, this is kind of amazing. I kind of love seeing that change, especially because I'm imagining the animation process probably changed dramatically over the years, especially in modern times now with the advent of all the computer animation to aid everybody.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about too, especially when you mention 8 months to get it back because they're hand drawing all the cells. I'm guessing. Wild. That's like a whole thing. One day I'd love to go to an animation studio to watch people work, but I imagine I think I may have missed my calling to see it in a traditional sense.
Yeah, I think it's mostly done on computer these days.
Right, exactly. It's like 2 people in a room somewhere. I was like, that's not as cool as I wanted it to be. We saw, you mentioned steamed hams earlier. Obviously, your fan club is the Steamed Ham Society, which everybody can sign up for.
Not my fan club, but my Food Lovers Club.
Food Lovers Club, excuse me. I'm sorry, poor verbiage on my part. But I had to ask, that was so many decades later, what was that like seeing that become an internet phenomenon?
It was really weird because I should say also, it's hard to imagine a time before the internet, but when we were broadcasting these episodes, they just went out into the ether and vanished.
Right.
Because you didn't hear anything about them. Like there was newspaper critics maybe review a show once a year, but they don't review new shows that have been on.
Right.
So you didn't even get any. You never heard anything about the show at all from anyone, and so you had no idea what people liked and didn't like. So we were just making the show to entertain ourselves for the most part.
I love that.
And so we did that episode. That episode, 22 Short Films About Springfield, was not popular. It didn't have a very good table reading, and it was just a case of Josh and myself saying, well, we like this, so it's going on. The same thing with the steamed ham segment, which was the largest segment in the whole episode, and I wrote it, and it didn't get that many laughs at the time, but I was like, well, I'm putting it on because I did it. And that's it. And so then it vanished, and I heard nothing about it again, and I was like, well, I always liked it, but I didn't hear anything about it for about 17 years until 2014, when I started getting some messages on like Twitter from Australia, and some people in Australia had started calling up one of their grocery store chains and asking for steamed hams as like a prank call.
Yeah.
And they the chain had a good sense of humor and started putting up signs in the store that says, "We don't carry steamed hams, but perhaps you'll enjoy our fine ground beef," right? And then they made a funny video about it and put it on Facebook. And then people just started talking about steamed hams. And then all of a sudden, but over the course of 3 years, it started becoming a thing. And people, by 2018, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of remixes of steamed hams on YouTube. And it became a thing, steamed hams, but it's this song, steamed hams, but everything is backwards, whatever, right? And so it was the internet meme of the year in 2018, according to one online source. And it was amazing. And so at that point, I was delighted because, first of all, I would have been very jealous if it had been someone else's segment. And I was like, that was also coincided with the time I started making my food stuff. So I was like, I have to somehow link steamed hams to my food endeavors because steamed hams is a euphemism for hamburgers anyway.
Right.
And so I started the Steamed Ham Society. My award show that I do every year is called the Steamies. And so anytime you see something having to do with food that says steam, it's probably me.
Yeah.
Or steamed hams. Like that might be, I made the steamed hams lager with Level Beer in Portland and stuff like that. And that's just one of, so those, I'm trying to, and by the way, I now have the trademark for steamed hams.
Oh, do you really?
Despite the fact that you would think that it would be owned by Fox Disney.
Yeah.
They either didn't care or dropped the ball when I filed for it as a food item. So I'm going to somehow, maybe you guys could be involved in this, somehow manufacture steamed ham, either frozen steamed hams or somehow license steamed hams to various restaurants or whatnot under my auspices. That's going to come probably next year.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I mean, if we can help anyway, seriously, I know I'm offering it publicly. I mean it genuinely.
That would be great.
I'd love to help, yeah. So what was the writing process like on coming up with steamed hams? Do you have a regular writing process in general as far as like coming up with a bit, or did some stroke of inspiration hit?
It was a unique situation. 22 Short Films was a unique situation on The Simpsons. Normally, the process is lengthy, so I won't go into it. I can say what it was for this episode. For this episode, we decided the origin of that episode was in the season 4 episode called The Front. The episode came in short. A lot of times the episodes came in short during those days because Mike Reese and Al Jean were real ruthless about cutting stuff and making the shows really tight and perfect. And so the show came in short, so that the staff wrote this thing in like 10 minutes called The Adventures of Ned Flanders, which is this really a short thing where, I'm sure you've all seen it, where Ned comes in and says, "We're going to church today," and Rod and Todd say, "No, we're not going, it's a Saturday," right? And there's a little song with it.
Right.
And we thought that was so funny because it also reminded me of Archie's Gag Bag, which was in Archie would be these the one page, one panel cartoons or 6 panel cartoons where just some corny joke real fast.
Sure.
And Josh and I loved it, and our episodes always came in long because we never cut anything. And so our episodes we never had a chance to do that. And we're like, the only way we're ever going to get to do shorts is if we make a whole episode of them and stick them all together somehow. And it also, Pulp Fiction had just come out, and it kind of gave us a template for like, you could somehow get a whole bunch of shorts woven together.
Right.
So we were very excited about this episode. And what we did is we did a kind of a fantasy football draft where all the writers got to pick their favorite characters. We had a draft in order. And because so that's what everybody picked the character that they wanted to write for. There were lots more episodes written, shorts written than actually could fit in the episode. But I think I forced myself to be the first one so I could pick Skinner and Chalmers as a pair, because Skinner had always been my favorite character to write for because he just reminded me of all the teachers I had growing up, and writing for him is really fun for some reason. And Chalmers is his natural enemy. Right. And there had been this thing invented. This is a long story. This thing,
I love it,
had been invented in season 4. It was an improv between Hank and Harry, where you may remember Chalmers is going on a tour. I think it's Whacking Day. Is on a tour of the school, and Ralph says, "What's a battle?" And he says, "Did the boy say what's that rattle?" And it's, "No, I hear B's as R's, had a cold," right? It goes on and on, and it seems unscripted, and it was unscripted. It was just Hank and Harry improvising, and it was so popular and so funny. And I was like, and it created this thing where Skinner would tell a lie to Chalmers, and we put it in several other episodes, and I think it probably had occurred maybe 6 or 7 times prior to 22 Films, where Skinner tells a kind of a very mild lie. Chalmers questions him on it once,
right,
and then drops it, right? And I was like, it always made me laugh because he knows he's lying, but he just doesn't care enough to pursue it.
Sure.
And what I said, that's what I wanted to do, is I want to do an episode where Skinner tells a lie, but this is the one time where Chalmers pursues it.
Right.
So in Steamed Hams, it's exactly that same dynamic, but he keeps pressing on it, forcing Seymour to make more and more preposterous lies.
Exactly.
Until it's finally the whole place is on fire, and he's lying about that. But then Chalmers buys it for whatever reason. And so that was what happened. And I wrote it all pretty quickly because it's more just like, it's very natural progression of those lies. The hard part was making up the food, and it had to be something that rhymed. So it was steamed clams and steamed hams. I didn't even know that steamed clams was a real dish until a few years ago. But
That's actually really funny. Yeah.
So that's how that thing came about.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you. I'm gled that we got to actually get a little insight to the process here, too.
I hope that was rewarding to hear that.
So
people
good.
have memorized it. It's really interesting that first of all, there's so much stuff online about it, but there's also a lot of merchandise, unlicensed merchandise that you can buy, like a wallpaper that has the text of it and stuff, and you can buy lots of stuff with the text of it and things of that nature, and also lots of logo. I have a couple of like the T-shirts with the Burger King logo that says Steamed Hams,
that's
things
good.
like that, and it's exciting that people have gotten. I think part of the reason is it's one of those things like it has a real short name that's like Who's on First,
right?
Or Dead Parrot. You know Monty Python.
Exactly.
Dead Parrot. Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say Dead Parrot or Who's on First.
Exactly.
And I think that the fact that it's Steamed Hams is giving it that kind of momentum, and it's easy to know what people are talking about.
Of course, absolutely. That you can latch onto that, and in thinking about it now, critically, quote unquote, it has a classic comedy setup, which is.
It's very Abbott and Costello, yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. And I think it's one of those things that like we all just respond so positively to that because it's like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm having my moments of starstruck right now, Bill. Oh my gosh, where was I going to go with this? You've worked with Josh now for what, like 30 plus years probably?
Yeah, we don't work all the time together, but we do. You know what? One of the things that people don't realize is that when you're a writing team, you have to split the salary. And that's like, for most of the shows we worked on, we were making less than the new guys.
Right.
Because we had to split it. And so about once we both started having families, we're like, this is no longer sustainable. So even on our last couple shows we worked on together, we would be separate. We'd be two separate guys.
Sure.
And so now we work occasionally, like we worked on Disenchantment together and so forth, but we work together and separately.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask, since you've all worked together so long, obviously you have a good working relationship, I think, and a good friendship, it sounds like, too. But have you ever had like a content related like disagreement about something that was like, I don't know, either like a really specific joke you just did not see eye to eye on that maybe turned into a bit of a silly situation or funny?
I think, first of all, our senses of humor are really similar because we became best friends in 9th grade. And so our was all formed by the same types of stuff that we watched and stuff. So I don't think we ever had a disagreement to the extent that, I think what happens is if somebody really feels strongly about it, the other person just says, fine.
Sure.
That's what generally happened. We never got into an argument about anything like that because if someone says, if one of us on the rare occasion would say, I think this is great, let's put it in, the other person would say, okay, let's give it a try.
Sure. Oh, I love that. Okay, I actually think that might be good advice for anybody listening that's trying to be in this space too, which is to be like a little flexible on your ideas too, where it's like, oh yeah, and there's a greater good element to it.
Yeah. It's also because, I mean, sometimes it doesn't even matter. Like, most cases, it doesn't really matter. And especially if you're doing something that's going to be read in public or whatever, you'll see whether people laugh at it or not.
Sure. Do you, something you touched on earlier that I've been thinking about, and I think about this a lot of times in general, right? I have like a wide age range of friends, and I feel like one of the older ones in the group, right? And I'm like, you don't remember what it was like. Movies and TV shows disappeared, right? Unless you thought to tape them. Do you see there being any like positives or maybe even just shifts in the way you write things now, knowing that everything kind of gets instantly archived on either form of a streaming service or YouTube, things like that? Has that changed your process at all?
Not really.
Really?
It's I think we always, on The Simpsons, we always knew, and they told us, as a matter of fact, when we started out there, they're like, these shows could be airing for 75 years. So don't put a lot of contemporary stuff in. Like, that's why The Simpsons, many of the episodes, sometimes you have a reference to something like Tim Allen or whatever. Right. But in general, the episodes don't have a lot of material that is now dated. And that's part of, like, it's also because it's animated, so you're not seeing a lot of old clothes. You're not seeing Bart growing up to be age 40. Right. Things like that. And so we knew we were writing these shows for kids who'd be watching them 30 years later, and they are. Now kids are watching them on Disney Plus, and they don't know those episodes are 30 years old.
Right.
So, an answer to the long way around answering your question is no. I've always been trying to write this stuff so that it would ideally last for a long time.
Right. What's the term? Evergreen. Right. So you can just sit there and play, baby. We love a little tree related action. I love that. One I keep thinking about, and I always get excited thinking about this in general, is how has you getting into the food space affected like going out to eat with your friends and family? Has it changed things?
Well, I take pictures of everything,
for
one, which annoys people. But I don't like, has it changed? It doesn't really have changed. I guess I'd say I'm more particular about what meals are. I don't like to waste meals. So
I love that.
Like I have meals during the day. I eat really healthy during the day, but then at night, all bets are off.
Right.
And
Double
it's
cheeseburger time.
7 beers and 2 frozen pizzas, right?
Sounds good.
That's so I don't like to waste meals, and I don't like when I go to some place, I'm not going to eat at the hotel restaurant, you know? I'm going to ask people online, where should I go when I'm in Omaha, for example, and get a list, and then I'll kind of which one's got the most votes, and I'll be intentional about it. So when I go out with my friends, especially when I'm in Portland, I know where to go. We're not going to waste a meal going to whatever hotel, restaurant, chain place. We're going to go to one of the places on my list.
I'm surprised. I thought about that. I was traveling for a show recently, and I got recommended 2 places. One was the hotel restaurant, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening. But then it made me start thinking. I was like, I wonder why hotel restaurants are not trying to step up the game in the modern food space.
There are some. There are some hotel restaurants that are destination restaurants now.
Oh, no kidding.
But it's becoming kind of a new thing amongst like those hotel. In fact, one of the places that I'm doing in San Diego, my event, is a place that's at like a completely renovated hotel that has kind of a mid-century modern Palm Springs kind of vibe.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And I think that there are some hotel restaurants. They're not all the same, like, Marriott food service garbage, right?
Yeah, it's like the Cisco truck rolled up, and we're like, oh, okay, great. I'm glad to hear that, actually, because I feel like the hotel space, well, it's like everything else, right? It's all cyclical. So you're like seeing these waves, and I keep getting fed a lot of content about like the fast casual restaurants right now and how they're trying to make a big resurgence in that regard. So I'm fascinated to see the cycles go. So now I'm kind of hoping that in the future I will get a good recommendation for a hotel restaurant.
Yeah.
Have you had any standout places in your travels that you were like really surprised by, or like a particular meal that you had out on the road that you're like, this is one I think about every so often?
Yeah, tons of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things when we were on tour. It was the 25th anniversary of our show Mission Hill, and we went on a basically 25, 30 city tour all over America, showing it. Josh and I showing it in movie theaters, and so then I went to a lot of cities I'd never been to before, and so at each city I would solicit suggestions from people and go to have 5 meals a day at various places.
I love that.
And so I've had tons of places. I mean, like I can certainly say Pittsburgh. I'd never been to Pittsburgh. I had so much great food there. I went to Pepe's. Everybody talks about Primanti Brothers.
Yeah.
I went to Primanti's. It was very good. But Pepe's, which is there's another like local sub place. I had a grilled Sicilian cold cut sub, which I think about every other day.
Oh yeah.
That was amazing. And
that sounds great.
I also had a lot of Polish food in both Detroit and Syracuse.
Okay.
I discovered that I love Polish food. And I had, like in Detroit, I had pickle soup, which I never had before. And I've had a whole bunch of like pierogies and things like that as well. So that's some of the stuff I've had. But I could take up your whole podcast by reminiscing about these.
I mean,
things.
I've got time. I'm secretly really just making a list of all the places. Like, great, I'm going to all.
I had the Coney dogs at Lafayette in Detroit.
Yes.
Excellent.
Wait, we should dive into that. So Lafayette was the one I liked. Did you go next door as well?
I went to both places. I thought Lafayette was better.
I thought Lafayette. I thought Lafayette was so much better. I don't understand why there's even the discussion. That was my take.
I think the other place is better at marketing. It's a much nicer place.
Yes,
and they also have one in the airport. There's one in Las Vegas of that same.
Oh, no
thing.
kidding!
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So they have the marketing skill. It's not like it's much work. It's actually quite good.
Yes,
but Lafayette
absolutely.
was a standout.
Yes, that was where I took it. Well, you walk in there, and I guess maybe I've lived in Cincinnati too long because it kind of reminded me of how I expected our chili parlors to still feel here.
Yeah.
Where it was like a bunch of older Greek guys that were just like but like aggressively handing out Miconi's quickly.
Yeah.
It had that old school. I mean, I grew up in New
Very
York
old
City, so
school.
it had that kind of vibe where I was like, ooh, this is not a customer service restaurant. This is a great place, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off in Detroit,
no.
but I was so excited about that. But they've got a pretty solid food scene too.
Yeah. I've never been to any of those places. So I'd never been to Cincinnati before we began. That was the first stop on our tour was Cincinnati last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was here, and that's how this whole thing came about.
I love that so much. Yeah, it was one of those. My funny story about it is I saw all the posts late, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he was in the store, and I have no idea." And I'm like,
Yeah, I was walking by this very spot and like looking in here, and like there's nobody there. Wow, I wonder if they ever do anything in there.
"No, actually, we didn't." It was so funny. I that's probably my most common question here is people are like, do you actually do the show here? I'm like, well, guest availability is so random, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, especially for some of these brands. We just had like a Canadian produce company come in. And so that was like, all right, well, we can either do it at like 10:15 in the morning on a Tuesday, or we can do it in the middle of the night on a Thursday or something like that. And it always cracks me up with the customers. So I was like, well, you can watch it online all of the time. I promise it's getting posted. But yeah, we're live right now in the store, so I think people can actually hear us right now. Which is one of my favorite parts about this place, is that this is the kind of thing we do. And if I'm not doing this, I'm pranking them with bad music tastes. So that's always kind of fun. The holidays are an exciting time
Oh
here.
my God.
I know I promised snacks, and we'll just eat them afterwards now. But I am going to bring up the poster from the Culinary Curiosity dinner that we just did here last night and the tour. Do you want to tell us, what can someone expect going to this tour?
They can expect to have 7 courses of unusual American regional foods that most likely they've never heard of, and even if they've heard of, they've probably never tried before.
Yeah.
This is one of the things is on the tour that we did for Mission Hill. As I said, I went to try a lot of different foods, and I always wanted to have some distinct regional food. I mean, everybody knows the Chicago-style hot dog,
Sure,
or Detroit-style pizza, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other unusual things, such as the Ohio Valley-style pizza, for example, that are unusual and only served within the very small area, but they're delicious. So my idea was to have an event where people can sample an entire evening of unusual food they would never ever find in their city. And so I've partnered with restaurants all around the country, and we're doing this event all over the place. I'm doing it specifically this summer. And we already finished Austin, we already finished Cincinnati, but we're doing Omaha, San Diego, Atlanta, Boston, and Greensboro, North Carolina this summer. Go to BillOakley.com for the lists and for links to the tickets and so forth.
I described it last night to someone. I was like, you know how when it's late at night, you get home, you make dinner, you put on the Food Network, and you watch that. This is kind of like that, except that you're not doing the dishes. Someone else is cooking the meal for you, and Bill is in your living room.
There's a funny talk given by me as well about the dishes, about the unusual world of American regional food, and with Simpsons anecdotes thrown in for people who just come for the Simpsons anecdotes.
Oh yeah, no, it was great though. It was really fun. It was, and I will say, I usually show up at these events, and then I'll usually sit with the strangers, because I'm just like, well, let's see what other people think about this. And I was really, really excited not only to have them share their sense of adventure, because I think you really put it well in that these are things most of my table hadn't heard of half of the dishes. And I had heard of them, but I hadn't tried a bunch of them. I'm trying not to spoil the one in particular that I also enjoyed a lot, that I'm still like, I'm afraid to tell people I enjoyed it. If my family back home hears, they'll be like, yeah, maybe don't come back for the holidays. But it was really cool to see that, and see that how you had catered to their adventurous spirit, while also providing some comfort in regards to like, well, there's like a cool explanation to this. There's a whole story behind it. Everybody was really engaged the whole night. I was so thrilled. I mean, it's been not even 12 hours, I think, and we're still at that point where like we've been getting a lot of great feedback. So first off, congratulations, but 2, I think you're just really doing something cool here.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun for me too to get to try these dishes. There's specifically a few dishes that I had never tried.
Yeah.
That I got to try last night as well. That blew my mind.
I can't believe I got to shot the video of one of them. Thank you.
It's very exciting. It was a great event. And so also, if you happen to know of a restaurant in your hometown that might be interested in this, generally it's a place you have an event center, but generally if it's a restaurant, it's a place that seats anywhere from 40 to 75 and already kind of has a menu of kind of American comfort food type things. they tend to be the places that want to do it, and they're configured so that everyone can see the slideshow.
Yeah.
And those are the only requirements, and I'm excited to try to find other cities to do it in the fall.
Is there a good way that you'd like people to reach out to you about that?
BillOakley.com has a thing
Perfect.
where you can say contact me, and so I would be yes, that's your source for all Bill Oakley information.
You also got me hooked on one of your sponsors last night, Zabs.
Yes.
That was awesome. Like an incredibly versatile hot sauce, and it wasn't like super spicy. Everybody at our table also were kind of freaking out about that, and the discussion became, I don't know which one I like better.
Yes, Zabs has been supporting this. It's been my favorite hot sauce for years, and I was thrilled when they agreed to support this by not only providing hot sauce, but just supporting me online and all that kind of stuff as well. And so I'm exposing people to their hot sauce, which it turns out they already sell here at Jungle Gyms.
I got that text.
It's the very last one alphabetically in the huge hot sauce aisle you have.
Yeah.
So I love it, and I'm glad to be sharing it with everybody. It goes well with a lot of these dishes.
Oh, it was. I tried a little bit of everything with everything last night just to see, and it was like, oh my gosh! Again, yeah, it's so versatile in that regard. So I think you've given me a new one in the lineup. I might have to bring you some other fun sauces too in the future.
Excellent.
I didn't think about the easel today. Bill, thank you so much for coming to do this. Thanks for your time here. I appreciate you letting me pick at your brain a little bit. Next time we'll do a whole 3-hour marathon where we really just talk about food stops across the country.
Great.
I was in Orlando for a trade show recently, and I went to, have you ever been to a Beefy King in Florida?
No, I wanted to go, but I couldn't. We had a Mission Hill show in Orlando, but there was a hurricane that prevented my plane from landing.
Oh, that's so awful.
So I didn't get to do my Orlando food tour.
Oh man. Well, I actually think they may have reached out to you already, but I have some friends down there that do a lot of like food stuff in the area. And if you get back down there, Beefy King was totally worth it. I think you'd really love it. It felt like I walked into a time capsule.
I love that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I joked. It was so much so that the restrooms were on the outside of the building still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's one of these places, and I braced for impact. But no, they were really clean too. But the food was great. I was like my last stop on the way out of Orlando. I was like,
I'm dying to try that.
Yeah, it was good. An interesting note, and I'm sure you've seen this in your travels too. But it was one of those places where you had to order all the add-ons. And I had that thing where I don't often have what I call menu anxiety, but it was that thing where I was like, oh yeah, just give me whatever is popular. And so then as I'm leaving, I'm posting the pictures on Instagram. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, did you get this sauce? Did you try this? I'm like, I actually didn't know any of those things existed. There was a very nice lady at the counter who gave me this and a little cup of root beer. We're on the way. So, oh my gosh, that was a fun one. So yeah, we'll do a whole road series in the future, Bill. And
great.
Again, if we can support you with anything steamed hams related, we'd love to do that too.
Excellent.
So in the meantime, let's send everybody right to BillOakley.com. Anywhere else you'd like them to follow you?
That Bill Oakley on all social media, especially Instagram, which is where I put my food stuff.
Yeah.
But that's it. Otherwise, just you can go if you want to attend the dinners or collaborate with me on the dinner, go to BillOakley.com and contact me through there.
That's so awesome. Well, thanks again, Bill. Appreciate it. Safe travels. In the meantime, we'll see you at the next stop.
Thank you.
Bill, thank you so much for coming out and doing this with us. Thanks for the event. It was incredible. The food was awesome. I hope everyone out there watching this goes out and catches Bill on tour when he comes to your town. It's going to be great. In the meantime, I wanted to say thank you all so much for tuning into the show. I got some work I got to get back to. So in the meantime, you can catch me out in the aisles.
The Jungle Gyms podcast is recorded in the WJJI studio inside Jungle Gyms International Market in Fairfield, Ohio. The Jungle Gyms podcast is produced and hosted by Mark Borison.